The stars looked peaceful through the main window of the USS Horizon. Captain Jack Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the endless darkness of space. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They had been traveling for 6 months, carrying 3,000 people to a new world called New Haven. Jack was tired. Not from the journey, but from memories. He had fought in wars back on Earth, bad wars. Wars where brothers killed brothers over land and resources. He had seen terrible things, done terrible things. But those days were supposed to be over now. Earth was united. Humanity was peaceful. They were explorers now, not soldiers. "Captain, we're detecting something," said Kate Sullivan from the tactical station. She was young but sharp. Jack trusted her completely. 3 large ships just appeared on our sensors. Jack felt his stomach tighten. "Can you identify them?" "Negative, sir. They're not human. The design is completely unknown." This was it. First contact with alien life. Jack had read all the reports and theories. Most scientists believed that any species advanced enough for space travel would be peaceful. War was inefficient. Peace was logical. That's what the experts said. "Open all communication channels," Jack ordered. "Let's say hello." Lisa Chun stepped forward. She was the diplomatic ambassador assigned to their mission. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She believed deeply in peace and understanding. "Captain, let me handle this. It's what I'm trained for." Jack nodded and Lisa moved to the communication station. She took a deep breath and began speaking clearly into the microphone. "Unknown vessels, this is the human colony ship USS Horizon. We come in peace. We seek friendship and knowledge. Please respond." They waited. Seconds felt like hours. Then the speakers crackled to life. The voice that came through was deep and rough, translated by their computer into English. "Human vessel. You will stop your engines. You will prepare to be boarded. You will submit to the authority of the Calrethi Empire." Lisa's face went pale. Jack stepped forward. "This is Captain Jack Morrison. We mean no harm. We're simply passing through this region on our way to establish a colony. We don't want any trouble. Your wants are irrelevant. You are weak. You are prey. The Calrethi do not negotiate with prey species. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender your ship and all aboard. If you resist, you will be destroyed. If you comply, you will become servants of the Empire. This is mercy." The communication ended abruptly. The bridge fell silent. Jack looked at his crew. They were scared. He couldn't blame them. "Kate, what can you tell me about those ships?" Kate studied her screens with intense focus. "They're big, sir. Each one is twice our size. Heavy armor. Multiple weapon systems. Their technology looks advanced." "Very advanced. Can we outrun them?" "No, sir." "They're faster than us?" Jack closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped to never face this kind of situation again. But hope didn't matter now. Reality mattered. "Get me Commander Ryan Bennett in engineering." A moment later, Ryan's face appeared on the screen. He was covered in grease and looked annoyed. "Captain, I'm in the middle of recalibrating the... Ryan, we have a situation. I need you to activate Protocol 7. Ryan's annoyed expression vanished. His face became serious. "Sir, are you sure? That protocol was only supposed to be used if we encountered hostile aliens. Yes, we just did. How long until you can have everything online?" "Give me 4 hours. You have 2. Yes, sir." Jack turned to his crew. "Listen to me. All of you. I know you're scared. I know this isn't what we signed up for. But we're not helpless. This ship was built during the corporate wars. The people who designed it knew that space might not be safe. They prepared for this. What's Protocol 7? Asked Lisa. Nobody told me about any military protocols. That's because you didn't need to know, Jack said quietly. Lisa, you're a good person. You believe in peace. That's important. We need people like you. But the truth is humanity learned a hard lesson during the unification wars. Peace is precious, but you can only have peace when you're strong enough to defend it. He pressed a button on his command chair. Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. Not emergency alarms? Something different. A specific pattern that certain people would recognize. Attention all personnel. This is the captain. Protocol 7 is now in effect. All civilians report to designated safe zones immediately. All military personnel report to your stations. This is not a drill. Deep in the lower sections of the horizon, in a chamber that most passengers didn't even know existed, 200 cryogenic pods began to warm up. Inside each pod was a Marine. Men and women who had volunteered to sleep through the journey, just in case they were needed, just in case humanity's hope for peace turned out to be wrong. Major Chris Holland was the first awake. His eyes opened slowly as the cryogenic fluid drained away. His body ached from the long sleep, but training kicked in immediately. He climbed out of the pod and grabbed the uniform waiting for him. Around him, other Marines were waking up. Some groaned. Some stretched. But none of them complained. They were professionals. "Listen up!" Chris shouted. His voice cut through the noise. "I don't know what's happening yet, but we wouldn't be waking up unless it was bad. Get dressed. Get armed. Get ready. We have 15 minutes before briefing." Back on the bridge, Jack was talking with his senior officers in his private ready room. Kate Sullivan, Lisa Chun, Ryan Bennett, and Dr. Sam Parker, the ship's medical officer. "Here's our situation," Jack said, displaying a holographic image of the 3 alien ships. "The Kalrathi Empire has given us 24 hours to surrender. They see us as weak. They think they can just take what they want." "Maybe we should try talking to them again," Lisa suggested. "Maybe there's been a misunderstanding." "Maybe there's no misunderstanding," Kate interrupted. "I've been analyzing their communication. Their language has no word for negotiate or compromise, only words for dominate and submit. They're a warrior culture. They respect only strength." "Then we show them strength," Jack said. "Ryan, report. I've activated all defensive systems. Our shields are military grade. Much stronger than they expect on a colony ship. I'm bringing the railguns online. We have 6 of them, hidden in what look like cargo pods. Plus missile batteries. 20 torpedoes total. That's enough to fight?" asked Sam. He was a thin man with gentle hands, more comfortable with healing than fighting. "Enough to hurt them," Ryan said. "Enough to make them think twice. Enough to maybe survive until we can call for help." "There's no help coming," Jack said quietly. "Earth is 6 months away. Any distress signal will take months to reach them. We're on our own." "No, we're not," Kate said. She was smiling slightly. "Captain, I think it's time you told them about the shadows." Jack hesitated, then nodded. "When Earth authorized this colony mission, they also sent 3 military ships to protect the route. The destroyer USS Vengeance, the carrier USS Liberty, and the dreadnought USS Defiance. They've been following us at a distance, staying hidden. Admiral Maria Cortez is in command of the battle group." Lisa's eyes went wide. "You knew about this? You knew we had military protection and you didn't tell anyone?" "It was classified," Jack said. "The whole point was to appear peaceful while actually being prepared. If aliens saw us traveling with warships, it might provoke hostility. This way, we look innocent." "And it worked," Kate added. "The Kalrathi think we're helpless. They have no idea what's really about to happen." "I've already sent a coded message to Admiral Cortez," Jack continued. "She knows our situation, but she won't intervene immediately. If we fight back and show strength, the Kalrathi might respect us and negotiate. If the Admiral swoops in and saves us, it makes humanity look weak, like we can't defend ourselves. So we have to fight," Sam said softly. "We have to prove we're not prey." "Yes," Lisa stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is insane. We're talking about war. About killing. We came out here to build a better future, not to fight." Jack looked at her with sad eyes. "Lisa, I wish you were right. I wish the universe worked the way you think it should. But it doesn't. Sometimes peaceful people have to do violent things to protect what matters. I've seen what happens when good people refuse to fight. They don't stay good. They just become dead. I can't accept that. You don't have to. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Keep trying to communicate with them. Keep looking for a peaceful solution. But while you're doing that, we'll prepare for war. Maybe you'll succeed. I hope you do. But if you don't, we'll be ready. The meeting ended. Each officer left to handle their duties. Jack stood alone in his ready room, looking at a photograph on his desk. It showed a younger version of himself, wearing a different uniform, standing with soldiers who were now dead. Brothers and sisters who had fallen in Earth's wars. I promised myself I was done fighting, he whispered to the photograph. I promised I'd never pick up a weapon again. But I guess some promises can't be kept. He placed the photograph face down on the desk and walked back to the bridge. Throughout the horizon, people were moving with purpose. Civilians were being guided to reinforce sections of the ship. Marines were checking their weapons and armor. Engineers were routing power to. The Calrathi attacked 6 hours early. Jack Morrison was in his quarters, trying to rest, when the alarms blared throughout the ship. He was on the bridge in less than 30 seconds, still pulling on his jacket. Report! He shouted. Kate Sullivan's fingers flew across her console. 3 Calrathi ships decloaking. Distance, 50,000 kilometers and closing fast. They're charging weapons. So much for their 24-hour deadline, muttered Ryan Bennett from the engineering station. They're testing us, Jack said, settling into his command chair. They want to see if we'll panic. All hands to battle stations. Raise shields. Prepare all defensive weapons, but do not fire until I give the order. Throughout the horizon, red lights flashed. Civilians huddled in reinforced sections of the ship, holding their children close. In the lower decks, 200 Marines finished their preparations. Major Chris Holland checked his rifle one last time and opened a communication channel to the bridge. Captain, Marines are ready. Just point us at the enemy. Stand by, Major. We're going to try something first. Jack nodded to Lisa Chun, who stood at the communication station. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was steady as she broadcast toward the Calrathi ships. Calrathi vessels, you promised us 24 hours. We ask that you honor your word and allow us time to consider your demands. The response came quickly, filled with what sounded like laughter. Humans, you are even weaker than we thought. You ask for honor from warriors while you cower behind your fragile ship. We have decided. You are not worthy of becoming servants. You will simply die. The communication cut off. Kate's screen lit up with warnings. They're firing! The first plasma bolt hit the horizon's shields. The ship shook but held steady. Another bolt followed, then another. The Calrathi were testing their defenses, trying to find weak points. Shields holding at 85%, Kate reported. They're not hitting us with everything they have. Still testing. Jack watched the tactical display. The 3 Calrathi ships were moving in a standard attack formation, one he recognized from his military days. They were confident. Too confident. Ryan, what's our shield status? We can take a lot more punishment than they think. These shields were designed to handle sustained combat. A colony ship, they said, right? More like a warship in disguise? Sir, they're moving closer, Kate warned. I think they're preparing to board us. Let them think that's possible, Jack said calmly. Lisa sent another message. Tell them we surrender. Tell them we're shutting down our engines and will allow them to board. Lisa stared at him. Captain? Do it. That's an order. With obvious reluctance, Lisa sent the message. The Calrathi response was immediate and gleeful. Wise choice, humans. Shut down all systems. We will board your vessel and claim it for the Empire. Do not resist, and some of you may survive. Cut all exterior lights, Jack ordered. Ryan, reduce shield strength to 20%. Make it look like we're powering down? Kate, I want targeting solutions on all 3 ships. Already have them, sir. Good, now we wait. The Calrethi ships moved closer. Through the bridge windows, their massive hulls became visible, dark metal covered in aggressive angles and weapon ports. They were beautiful in a terrible way, designed purely for war. One of the ships extended a docking tube toward the horizon. Jack watched it approach, his face emotionless. Inside, his heart was pounding. This was the moment. Everything depended on timing. Docking tube is attaching, Kate reported. They're preparing to breach our hull. How many do you estimate? Probably 500 troops. Maybe more. They'll try to overwhelm us with numbers. Jack pressed a button on his chair. Major Holland, you're up. Remember the plan? Yes, sir. It's going to be a pleasure. The Calrethi began cutting through the horizon's outer door. It took them 3 minutes. When they finally broke through, they rushed into the corridor beyond, weapons ready. Expecting frightened civilians, instead they found an empty hallway. Confused, the first wave of Calrethi warriors moved forward cautiously. Behind them, more soldiers poured through the breach point. Then the ambush began. Marines appeared from hidden positions behind false wall panels. Gunfire erupted from multiple angles. The Calrethi had armor, but human bullets were designed to pierce armor. The first 20 aliens fell in seconds. The Calrethi tried to return fire, but they were packed together in the corridor with nowhere to take cover. More Marines appeared, these ones throwing grenades that filled the hallway with smoke and fire. "Push them back," shouted Sergeant Danny Cruz. "Don't let them establish a position." The Marines moved forward in coordinated teams. They had trained for this exact scenario, fighting in tight spaces against a larger enemy. The Calrethi were strong, yes. They had claws and thick scales, but they weren't prepared for the sheer aggression of human tactics on the bridge. Kate was monitoring the boarding action through internal cameras. Major Holland's teams have them contained at the breach point. Calrethi casualties are mounting. They're trying to pull back. Good, Jack said. Now for Phase 2. Ryan, bring everything online. Full power to shields. Unlock all weapon systems. With pleasure, Captain. Throughout the horizon, hidden panels opened. What looked like cargo containers split apart to reveal railguns. The ship's true nature was revealed. Kate, you have permission to fire. Target the ship that's docked with us first. Firing. 6 railguns fired simultaneously. Metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds, crossed the distance in a fraction of a second, and slammed into the Calrethi ship's hull. The alien vessel had shields, but they weren't designed for kinetic weapons fired at point-blank range. The Calrethi ship shuddered. Hull breaches appeared along its side. Atmosphere vented into space. Fire again, Jack ordered. Another volley. This time, the railguns targeted the ship's engines. One of them exploded in a brilliant flash of blue light. The Calrethi vessel began to drift, powerless. The other 2 Calrethi ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts hammered against the horizon's shields. This time, they weren't holding back. Shields at 60%, Kate reported. They're hitting us hard. Return fire. Missiles and railguns. Split targets. The horizon launched a full spread of torpedoes. 20 missiles streaked toward the 2 attacking ships while railguns fired continuously. The battle had fully begun. Inside the corridors, the Calrethi boarding troops realized their ship was under attack. They tried to retreat back through the docking tube, but Major Holland had anticipated this. "Seal the breach door," he ordered. "Trap them inside." Marines rushed forward and activated the emergency bulkhead. The heavy door slammed shut, cutting off the Calrethi's escape route. 500 alien warriors were now trapped inside the horizon with 200 very angry humans, the Calrethi commander. A huge reptilian creature named Vexther roared in fury. He shouted orders to his troops in their native language. They spread out, trying to take control of the ship section by section, but the humans had a massive advantage. They knew every corridor, every room, every hiding spot. Major Holland split his Marines into small teams and sent them throughout the contested area. What followed was brutal close-quarters combat. The Kalrathi were stronger individually. When they caught a human in direct combat, they usually won. But the humans never fought fair. They used hit-and-run tactics. They set traps. They turned off lights and used night vision. They sealed corridors and flooded them with toxic gas from the engineering section. Corporal Emma Walsh led a team of 5 Marines against a group of 20 Kalrathi. Instead of fighting directly, she led the aliens into the cargo bay. Once they were inside, she sealed the doors and vented the atmosphere into space. 20 Kalrathi died without a single shot fired. War isn't about being strong, Emma said to her squad. It's about being smart. Dr. Sam Parker set up an emergency medical station near the fighting. Wounded Marines were brought to him constantly. He worked with incredible speed, patching wounds, stabilizing injuries, getting soldiers back into the fight. "You're not a soldier," one Marine said to him as Sam bandaged his arm. "No," Sam agreed. "But I learned medicine in the corporate wars. I've seen worse than this. Now get back out there and make my work count for something." On the bridge, Jack watched the tactical situation evolve. One Kalrathi ship was disabled and drifting. The other 2 were still fighting, but they were taking heavy damage. The Horizon's shields were down to 30%, but the ship's hull was strong. They could take more punishment. "Captain, the Kalrathi are sending a message," Lisa said. "Put it through." The voice that came over the speakers was different from before. Less arrogant. More uncertain. "Human vessel. We underestimated you. We were told your kind were weak. We see now this was wrong. We request a ceasefire to discuss terms." Jack looked at Kate. She shook her head slightly, indicating the Kalrathi ships were still in attack formation, still charging weapons. "They're lying, sir. They want us to lower our guard." "I thought so." Jack activated the communication channel. "Kalrathi ships? If you want a ceasefire, prove it. Power down your weapons. Move to a safe distance. Do this in the next 60 seconds or we will continue firing." There was a long pause. Then the Kalrathi ships began to pull back. "Their weapons powered down. Are they really retreating?" asked Ryan. "No," Jack said quietly. War Commander Thexler studied the reports from the failed attack with growing concern. He sat in his command chamber aboard his flagship, the Blood of Conquerors, reading the survivor accounts. What he learned disturbed him deeply. The Kalrathi Empire had ruled their section of space for 3,000 years. They had conquered 47 different species. Some had been absorbed into the Empire as workers. Others had been eliminated. The Kalrathi understood war better than any race in the galaxy. Or so they had believed. "These humans fight unlike anything we have seen," said his second-in-command, a scarred warrior named Craval. "The survivors speak of tactics we cannot predict. Weapons that appear from nowhere. Enemies who refuse to die even when wounded." Thexler watched the recorded footage from the boarding action. He watched human soldiers fight with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic. He watched them turn corridors into death traps. He watched them sacrifice themselves to save their companions. He watched them smile while covered in blood. "Send word to the High Command," Thexler ordered. "Tell them we need to study this enemy more carefully. These are not simple prey. These are predators." Back on the horizon, Major Chris Holland was conducting his own analysis. He sat in the Marine briefing room with his squad leaders, reviewing footage from the battle. "We won this fight," Chris said. "But it cost us. 23 good people are dead. We need to understand what worked and what didn't." Sergeant Danny Cruz spoke up. "The Kalrathi are strong, sir. When they grabbed Stevens, they crushed his armor like it was paper. We can't match them in physical strength." "We don't need to," said Corporal Emma Walsh. "We're faster. We can fight longer. I watched a Kalrathi warrior get tired after 10 minutes of combat. Our people fought for 2 hours straight without slowing down." "That's because of our evolution," said Dr. Sam Parker, who was attending the meeting. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We didn't catch prey by being faster. We caught them by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. No other species on Earth could match human endurance. Apparently, no other species in space can either. Chris nodded. Good point. What else? They don't adapt quickly, said another Marine named Helen Torres. They have standard tactics and they stick to them. When we changed our approach, they kept doing the same things. It made them predictable. And they don't understand fear, Emma added. I mean, they understand being afraid, but they don't understand using fear as a weapon. When we started playing those sounds over the speakers, the screams and the war songs, it confused them. They didn't know how to respond. Chris smiled grimly. Psychological warfare. Something humans invented thousands of years ago? We learned that breaking an enemy's will is often easier than breaking their body. On the bridge, Captain Jack Morrison was having a similar conversation with his officers. They had 6 days before the Calrathi fleet arrived. 6 days to prepare for a battle they probably couldn't win. We need help, Lisa Chun said. We should contact Earth, ask them to send the entire fleet? By the time they got here, we'd be dead or captured, Jack replied. Our only hope is Admiral Cortez and her battle group. But 3 ships against a Calrathi fleet? The odds aren't good. Kate Sullivan was working on something at her station. She looked up with a thoughtful expression. Captain, what if we don't try to win? What if we try to make them lose? Explain. The Calrathi respect strength. They came here expecting to find weak prey. Instead, they found warriors. That first battle changed their perspective. Now, War Commander Thexler is bringing overwhelming force because he wants to crush us and restore his empire's reputation. So we make him fail. Not by destroying his fleet. We can't do that. But by making the victory so costly, so painful, that the Calrathi Empire decides humans aren't worth fighting. We make them afraid of us. Jack considered this. You're talking about making an example. Making them think that every battle with humanity will be a nightmare. Exactly. Ryan Bennett laughed harshly. I like it. We can't beat them, so we traumatize them instead. Very human. Over the next 6 days, the horizon became a fortress. Ryan and his engineers worked around the clock improving defenses. They set up false compartments throughout the ship. They rigged entire sections to explode or flood with chemicals. They placed thousands of small cameras everywhere so they could monitor every corridor. The Marines trained constantly. Major Chris Holland drilled his people in close combat, trap setting, and guerrilla warfare. He taught them how to fight when outnumbered 10-1. He taught them how to make the enemy afraid. Remember, Chris told his troops, the Calrathi think war is about honor and strength. They think battles are won by the bravest warrior. We're going to teach them that war isn't a game. It's not about honor. It's about making the other guy regret he ever met you. Dr. Sam Parker prepared medical stations throughout the ship, but he also did something else. He prepared psychological profiles of the Calrathi based on the prisoners they had taken. He studied their fear responses, their cultural values, their breaking points. They're warriors, Sam explained to Jack, but they're warriors from a civilization that hasn't faced a real threat in generations. They've fought smaller, weaker species. They don't know how to handle an enemy that fights dirty, that refuses to follow their rules. Lisa Chun spent the 6 days trying one last time to negotiate. She sent messages to the Calrathi High Command. She offered peace, trade, mutual understanding. She got no response. Finally, she came to Jack's ready room, defeated. They won't even talk to me, she said quietly. I failed. Jack looked at her with sympathy. No, Lisa, the Calrathi failed. They failed to see that the universe has changed, that there are other ways besides conquest. You tried to show them a better path. It's not your fault they're too blind to see it. What happens now? Now we fight. And we make sure they remember us. On the 5th day, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was monitoring long-range sensors when she detected something. A coded signal, barely detectable, coming from the edge of the system. Captain, I think Admiral Cortez is trying to contact us. Jack rushed to the communication station. Can you decode it? Working on it. It's heavily encrypted. They don't want the Calrathi to intercept. There, got it. A message appeared on the screen, text only. Horizon, we have been watching. Your fight was impressive. We have a plan. Do exactly as follows. Make the Calrathi think you are trapped and desperate. When their fleet arrives, transmit these specific sensor frequencies on all channels. This will look like a malfunction, but will actually give us your enemy's positions. Stay strong. Help is closer than you think. Jack read the message 3 times. Then he looked at Kate. What's Admiral Cortez planning? I think she's planning to let the Calrathi think they're winning right up until the moment they lose. The 6th day arrived. Long-range sensors detected the Calrathi fleet entering the system. Kate counted the ships and her face went pale. Captain, I'm reading 15 vessels. 3 are battleships. The rest are cruisers and destroyers. This is a full war fleet. Jack activated the ship-wide communication. All hands, the enemy has arrived. Everyone to your stations. Civilians to safe zones. Marines, you know what to do? This is it. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. War Commander Thexler watched the horizon through his ship's main viewer. The human vessel looked damaged from the previous battle. It was holding position, not trying to run. Good. The humans had accepted their fate. All ships, attack formation, Thexler ordered. Surround them. Cut off all escape routes. Then we board and take that ship? I want prisoners. I want to understand these humans before we decide whether to exterminate their entire species. The Calrathi fleet moved into position. 15 ships against 1. From a military perspective, it was overwhelming force. From a psychological perspective, it was meant to break the humans' will, but as they moved closer, something happened that Thexler didn't expect. The horizon began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not a surrender. Not a plea for mercy. They were broadcasting music. It was a human war song. Something called the Battle Hymn of the Republic. The words were in English, translated by the Calrathi computers. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. What is this? Crevel asked. Why are they singing? Thexler didn't answer. He was listening to the words, trying to understand. These humans knew they were about to die. They knew they were outmatched. And they were singing about it. About glory and wrath and terrible swift swords. They are insane, Crevel said. No, Thexler said slowly. They are not insane. They are warriors. True warriors. And we have made a terrible mistake. Inside the horizon, the mood was not what the Calrathi expected. The humans were not crying or panicking. They were calm, focused, ready. Major Chris Holland walked through the corridors, checking on his Marines. How you feeling, Danny? He asked Sergeant Cruz. Ready, sir? These aliens want a war? We'll give them one they'll never forget. That's what I like to hear. Chris stopped at a memorial wall where photos of the 23 dead Marines had been placed. He touched each picture gently. Watch over us today, he whispered. And if we fall, we'll see you on the other side. Admiral Maria Cortez had been a naval officer for 30 years. She had fought in the Mars Rebellion, the corporate wars, and dozens of smaller conflicts that most people never heard about. She knew war. She understood it. And she knew that wars were won by patience as much as firepower. How long do we wait? Asked her tactical officer aboard the USS Defiance. Until they're committed, Maria said calmly. Until they think they've already won. People make mistakes when they're confident. That's when we strike. She watched her screens as the Calrathi fleet moved into position around the horizon. The alien ships were powerful and well-armed. In a straight fight, her 3 ships would struggle against 15. But Maria hadn't survived 30 years by fighting fair. The USS Vengeance was hiding in the asteroid belt, its stealth systems making it invisible to Calrathi sensors. Captain Nicole Grant and her crew waited silently, Weapons armed and ready, the USS Liberty floated behind a small moon. Its 90 fighters prepared to launch at a moment's notice. Commander Paul Rivers sat in his cockpit, hands on the controls, watching the countdown timer and the USS Defiance, the largest and most powerful of the three, waited in the shadow of a dead comet, its main weapon charging slowly. The gravity cannon had never been used in real combat before. Today would be its first test. "Admiral, the Calrathi are beginning their boarding action," reported the communication officer. "Good," Maria said. "Captain Grant, move the Vengeance into position. I want you ready to cut off their retreat. Commander Rivers, prepare your fighters, but do not launch yet. Let's see how Captain Morrison handles this next part." On the horizon, 3 Calrathi ships had attached boarding tubes. Thousands of alien warriors were preparing to board. Jack Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the preparation with cold eyes. "Kate, are the surprises ready?" "Yes, sir. Sections 7, 12, and 19 are all prepared." "Excellent. Major Holland, the guests are arriving. Please welcome them appropriately." Deep in the ship, Chris Holland smiled. "With pleasure, Captain." The Calrathi began cutting through the hull. It took them 5 minutes this time. They had learned from the first battle and were being more careful. When they finally breached the hull, they sent in armored troops first, expecting an ambush. They were right, but not the kind they expected. The first Calrathi warriors entered the corridor and immediately stepped on pressure plates hidden under the floor. The plates triggered shaped charges that fired up through their feet and legs. 20 warriors fell in the first 3 seconds. The next wave came through more carefully, scanning for traps. They found some but missed others. When they reached the first intersection, motion sensors detected them and automated guns popped out of the ceiling. The Calrathi had armor that could stop human bullets, but these weren't regular guns. They were firing armor-piercing rounds designed to penetrate tank plating. The Calrathi fell back, regrouping. They had expected Marines. They had expected a fight. They hadn't expected the ship itself to be a weapon. "These humans are clever," one Calrathi commander reported to Wexler. "They have turned their vessel into a trap." "Then spring the trap," Wexler ordered. "Send more warriors. Overwhelm their defenses with numbers." More Calrathi poured through the boarding tubes. Hundreds of them. They pushed forward despite the casualties, using their dead as shields against the automated weapons. Slowly, they began to advance deeper into the ship. That's when they encountered the Marines. Major Chris Holland had divided his 200 soldiers into 20 teams of 10. Each team knew their section of the ship perfectly. They used every advantage they could. Team 3, led by Sergeant Danny Cruz, waited in the engine room. When 50 Calrathi warriors entered, Danny triggered the emergency venting system. Superheated plasma from the engines flooded the room. The Calrathi's armor protected them for exactly 4 seconds before they started cooking inside it. Team 7, led by Corporal Emma Walsh, used a different approach. They appeared at the end of a long corridor, fired a few shots, then ran. The Calrathi chased them, thinking the humans were retreating. Emma led them straight into the medical bay where Dr. Sam Parker was waiting. Sam had filled the medical bay with anesthetic gas. The Calrathi burst in, breathing heavily from the chase. Within seconds, they began to stumble. Within a minute, they were unconscious. Emma's team went back in wearing masks and executed every one of them while they slept. "That's not fair," one of Emma's Marines said. "War isn't fair," Emma replied. "War is winning." Team 12 found a group of Calrathi trying to reach the bridge. Instead of fighting them directly, they sealed all the doors in that section, turned off the gravity and turned off the lights. Then they put on magnetic boots and night vision goggles. The Calrathi floated helplessly in the dark, while humans moved through them like ghosts, shooting them one by one. The aliens tried to fight back, but couldn't even tell which direction the attacks were coming from on his flagship. Wexler was receiving report after report of losses. His warriors were dying by the hundreds. The casualty count kept rising. 50 dead, 100 dead, 200 dead. "This is impossible," Crevel said. "We outnumber them 10 to 1. How are we losing? Because numbers don't matter if you're fighting in the enemy's territory, Wexler said grimly. These humans know every corner of their ship, every trap, every weapon. We're not attacking them. We're walking into a prepared killing ground. Should we pull back? No, send more warriors. All of them. We will take that ship through sheer force of numbers. The humans cannot have infinite ammunition. But the humans didn't need infinite ammunition. They had creativity. They had rage. They had a willingness to do whatever it took to survive. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, sitting safely on the bridge, was coordinating all the Marine teams. She watched the battle unfold through dozens of cameras. Whenever the Calrathi adapted to one tactic, she sent orders for the humans to change tactics. Team 5, the enemy is learning to avoid your ambush points. Switch to direct assault. Team 8, excellent work with the chemical weapons. Do it again in Section 15. Team 19, you're about to be flanked. Fall back to position Charlie and prepare the surprise. The surprise was that the humans had removed all the atmosphere from Section Charlie. When the Calrathi broke through the door expecting to find Marines, they found vacuum instead. Those who weren't wearing sealed armor died instantly. Hours passed. The battle raged throughout the ship. The Calrathi kept pushing forward. The humans kept making them pay for every meter. Finally, a group of Calrathi warriors managed to reach the bridge level. There were only 30 of them left from the original force of nearly 1,000. They were exhausted, traumatized, and barely holding on to their sanity. But they had a mission. Kill the human commander. They blasted through the final door and charged onto the bridge. They found Captain Jack Morrison standing in the center, alone, holding a simple pistol. Just you? The Calrathi leader asked in broken English. Where are your warriors? I am a warrior, Jack said calmly. And I'm all you need. The Calrathi laughed and moved forward. Jack didn't move. He just smiled and pressed a button on a small device in his other hand. The bridge floor opened up. All 30 Calrathi fell through into a chamber below. The floor sealed shut above them. Then the chamber filled with water. The Calrathi pounded on the walls, trying to break free. But the walls were reinforced steel. They drowned, one by one, while Jack watched from above. I told you, Jack said quietly to himself. I'm done being nice. Outside the ship, War Commander Wexler finally accepted the truth. He had sent over 2,000 warriors into that ship. Less than 300 had made it back out. The Horizon was still functional. Still fighting. Still broadcasting that horrible human war music. Pull all boarding teams back, Wexler ordered. Seal the tubes. We will destroy them from a distance. Sir, we wanted prisoners. We wanted to study them. I know what I said. Wexler roared. But these humans are not prisoners. They are demons. We destroy them now before we lose any more warriors. The Calrathi ships pulled back and prepared to fire everything they had. Plasma weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds. They would reduce the Horizon to atoms. Admiral Maria Cortez watched this development from the Defiance. They're finally giving up on boarding? Good. That means they're about to concentrate their fire. That means they're not watching their surroundings. She activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Cortez. Execute Operation Hammer. I say again, execute Operation Hammer. The USS Vengeance decloaked directly behind the Calrathi formation. Before the aliens could even react, Captain Nicole Grant's ship fired a full spread of torpedoes into the rear of the enemy fleet. 3 Calrathi destroyers exploded. Surprise? Nicole said with satisfaction. The USS Liberty launched all 90 fighters. They came around the moon in a perfect formation, moving so fast the Calrathi barely had time to see them coming. Commander Paul Rivers led the attack personally. All wings, pick your targets. Remember your training. Hit them hard and fast. The human fighters were smaller than Calrathi vessels, but they were faster and more maneuverable. Each fighter carried 4 anti-ship missiles. 90 fighters meant 360 missiles in the first strike. The missiles streaked through space. The gravity well appeared directly in front of War Commander Thexler's flagship. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive Calrathi battleship began to stretch, its hull bending and twisting as the gravity pulled it apart. Metal screamed. Systems exploded. The ship tore in half like paper being ripped. Atmosphere vented into space along with thousands of Calrathi crew members. Within 30 seconds, the flagship that had terrified 47 species was nothing but debris. The other Calrathi ships stopped moving. They had just watched their commander and his entire crew die in a way they couldn't understand. Fear spread through the fleet like a disease. This is Captain Nicole Grant of the USS Vengeance to all Calrathi vessels. You have entered human-protected space and attacked a peaceful colony ship. You have one chance to survive. Power down your weapons. Shut down your engines. Surrender immediately. You have 60 seconds to comply. The Calrathi captains looked at their tactical screens. They saw 3 human warships. Behind those ships, they could now detect defensive platforms, weapon satellites, and more vessels jumping into the system. The humans hadn't been alone. They had been waiting, watching, preparing. It had all been a trap. One by one, the Calrathi ships powered down their weapons. Some tried to run, but Commander Paul Rivers' fighter squadrons chased them down. The fighters were too fast, too agile. The Calrathi ships that tried to escape were destroyed. Within 10 minutes, the battle was over. Of the 15 Calrathi ships that had attacked, only 7 remained functional. All 7 had surrendered. Admiral Maria Cortez opened a communication channel to all surviving Calrathi vessels. When she spoke, her voice was cold and hard. I am Admiral Maria Cortez of the United Earth Defense Force. Your attack on the colony ship Horizon was unprovoked and brutal. You came here believing humans were weak. You were wrong. You came here believing you could take what you wanted. You were wrong. You came here believing your empire was unstoppable. You were very wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. Here's what happens next. Your surviving ships will be allowed to leave. You will return to your empire and deliver this message to your high command. Humanity is not prey. We are not servants. We are not interested in your empire or your wars. But if you attack us again, if you threaten our colonies, if you harm even one human civilian, we will come for you. We will find your worlds. We will break your fleets. We will show you what real war looks like. This is your only warning. There will not be another. On one of the surrendered Calrathi ships, a young captain named Vorthal listened to the human admiral's words. He had been in the boarding party that attacked the Horizon. He had watched his entire squad die in those horrible corridors. He had seen things that would haunt him forever, humans fighting with injuries that should have killed them, humans laughing while covered in blood, humans using weapons that no honorable warrior would touch, humans who refused to die no matter how many times they were struck down. Vorthal understood now what his empire had done. They had awakened something terrible, something that should have been left alone. Send the message to High Command, he told his communication officer. Send everything. All the recordings. All the data. They need to see what these humans are. Back on the Horizon, Captain Jack Morrison walked through the damaged corridors of his ship. Bodies lay everywhere. Most were Calrathi, but some were human. His Marines. His crew. People he had promised to protect. Major Chris Holland found him in Section 7, standing over the body of a young Marine named Billy Chun. The boy was 22 years old. He had joined the Marines to see the stars. Now he would never see anything again. He fought well, Chris said quietly. Saved his whole squad by throwing himself on a Calrathi grenade. They all fought well, Jack said. Every single one of them. They proved that humans belong in space, that we won't be pushed around. But the cost was worth it, Chris finished. I know that sounds cold. But if we had surrendered, if we had shown weakness, every human colony in space would be in danger. Now they know. They know what happens when you attack us. Jack nodded slowly. I'm putting you up for promotion. You deserve it. Sir, I was just doing my job. You did more than that. You turned 200 Marines into an army that destroyed thousands of enemy soldiers. That's not just doing a job. That's leadership. On the bridge, Kate Sullivan was coordinating repair efforts when Lisa Shun approached her. The diplomat looked exhausted and sad. We won, Lisa said. But it doesn't feel like winning. That's because winning and surviving aren't the same thing, Kate replied. We survived. That's all that matters, is it? We killed thousands of beings today. Doesn't that bother you? Kate stopped what she was doing and looked at Lisa. Of course it bothers me. I'm not a monster. But they gave us no choice. You tried to talk to them. You offered peace. They called us prey. What did you want us to do? Die politely? Lisa didn't have an answer. Admiral Maria Cortez came aboard the Horizon 6 hours after the battle ended. She walked through the damaged ship with Captain Morrison, seeing the evidence of the brutal fighting. Your crew did well, Maria said. Better than well. They held against impossible odds. The recordings of this battle are going to change everything. Every species in this region of space is going to see what happened here. Is that good or bad? Jack asked. Both. Some will respect us. Others will fear us. A few might try to test us, see if we're really as dangerous as the Calrathi claim. But most will think twice before attacking any human vessel. They reached the bridge and sat down in the captain's ready room. Maria poured them both a drink from Jack's private stock. What happens to the Calrathi prisoners? Jack asked. We'll hold them for a while. Study them. Learn about their empire. Then we'll send them home with a treaty. They leave us alone, we leave them alone. Simple. You think they'll honor it? I think they're terrified of us. That's better than trust. Jack sipped his drink. I left Earth to get away from war. I thought space would be different. I thought we could build something peaceful out here. Maybe we still can, Maria said. But peace has to be defended. That's something humans learned the hard way. Every peaceful civilization in history existed because someone was willing to fight for it. News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. The Galactic Council, a loose organization of spacefaring species, called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to discuss the human problem. An elder ambassador from a species called the Vree spoke first. The Vree were an ancient race, millions of years old. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. We have reviewed the recordings from this battle, the Vree ambassador said. What we have seen concerns us greatly. These humans fight with a brutality we have not witnessed in 10,000 years. They use tactics that violate every convention of civilized warfare. They seem to enjoy violence. A younger ambassador from a species called the Torvin disagreed. They were defending themselves. The Calrathi attacked without provocation. The humans showed restraint by allowing survivors to leave. Restraint? Another ambassador asked. They destroyed an entire battle fleet. They killed thousands. They used weapons of such power that they tore a battleship in half. This is restraint? The debate continued for hours. Some species called for preemptive action against humanity. Others counseled caution. Finally, the Vree ambassador raised his hand for silence. I have lived for 3,000 of your years, he said. I have studied countless species. I have watched empires grow and collapse. I have one observation about these humans that I believe you are all missing. The council chamber fell silent. You see them as warriors, and that frightens you. But look deeper at their history. Yes, they are warriors. But they are also artists, scientists, poets, and dreamers. They are a species of contradictions. They can be incredibly violent and incredibly gentle. They can destroy worlds and heal them. They can hate with passion and love with equal passion. The Vree ambassador pulled up images of Earth, forests and cities, oceans and deserts. Billions of humans going about their daily lives. This species evolved on a world that tried to kill them at every turn. Disease, predators, natural disasters. other humans. Everything was a threat. They survived not by being the strongest, but by being the most adaptable, the most stubborn, the most unwilling to give up. He paused, letting the images sink in. The Kalrathi made a fatal mistake. They assume that because humans prefer peace, they are incapable of war. They learned the truth too late. Humans prefer peace not because they are weak, but because they know the true cost of war. They have fought wars that would horrify most of you. They have survived genocides, plagues, and near-extinction events. They united their world not through conquest, but through choice. Another ambassador spoke up. So what do you suggest we do about them? Nothing, the Vree said simply. Leave them alone. Do not provoke them. Do not threaten them. If they offer friendship, accept it carefully. If they offer trade, be fair. Humanity is not a problem to be solved. They are a new power in the galaxy, and we must adapt to their presence. And if they prove hostile? Then we will face a war unlike anything this galaxy has seen in millions of years. A war we might not win. The council chamber fell silent again. No one wanted to admit it, but they all nay.